Yeah, I see it as just a way to scale layer twos and get back to the same thing where it shouldn't be prohibitive in cost to do something that shouldn't cost that much money. So like on Ethereum, you have contracts and you pay per byte, but you're sharing that with an entire world. So instead of saying like, oh, I want to play a game here, I don't want to pay $10 to make a single move, it might be beneficial to make it on your own side chain. So if you and any group of people that you want to do business with can start a token and put in whatever smart contracts you want in there to run your community or co-op or any model that you can put on paper, you should be able to put on there.
So where do you think dLux will end up going? Where's your vision for it, and what services it's going to provide people?
I think it's kind of like Dan was just mentioning that everything's like a skins game. I think dLux is just like a place where you will be able to, instead of post a video, post an application. Um, and yeah, that's, I think, like Apple has been saying, like they were making it very hard to put crypto apps in the store because they didn't trust the industry. And there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, you own your Hive account, so you should be able to use that identity to do a lot more things than just post a blog. And really, that content, like the application content layer, instead of the static layer that you get with videos and blogs and pictures, I think is a really important piece to that puzzle. So that's hopefully what I see. It's just an app store that actually pays you to use it instead of charges 30% in the future.
Clear, cool. So then, tell us a bit more about Honeycomb, where you're at with that, and where you think that's going to go in the future, and what it's going to, what services it's going to serve, and what kind of problems it's going to solve.
Yeah, I see it as just a way to scale layer twos and get back to the same thing where um, it shouldn't be prohibitive in cost to do something that shouldn't cost that much money. So like on Ethereum, you have contracts and you pay per byte, but you're sharing that with an entire world. So instead of saying like, oh, I want to play a game here, I don't want to pay $10 to make a single move, it might be beneficial to make it on your own side chain. So if you and any group of people that you want to do business with can start a token and put in whatever smart contracts you want in there to run your community or co-op or any model that you can put on paper, you should be able to put on there.
So this to me is really cool because it feels like you're going to end up in a place where there's going to be some service, maybe it doesn't have enough decentralization, but there's going to be people on the Honeycomb ecosystem that can maybe step in and say, hey, yeah, we'll run a bunch of nodes for you guys. It's really lightweight for us to do it anyway, and we'll do it for a temporary amount of time, maybe until your community gets started up. It's certainly something that we're looking to use on the Speak network as people spin up their own breakaway communities, ways for the core infrastructure operators on the Speak network to move across to a separate set of nodes for a period of time to get one or two or five or whatever it is of these breakaway communities up and running in a decentralized way. Especially if you've got a group of like 9 to 11 to 15 nodes and above, you can have distributed information, distributed peer-to-peer information distribution, right? Which means you can then drop points and you can then start dropping tokens to communities in a decentralized way. And I just think that's going to be a super easy, nice, lightweight method to do that. And I think that solves a massive problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. The whole ecosystem is just set up so everybody should be able to do those kinds of things. And it's just skins. It shouldn't cost any more than, what it would cost you to make a bowling team. You buy 4 shirts and you have a bowling team. It should be something in that neighborhood. And then as your community grows and you manage that with the price of the token, the admission fees change and everything stays a lot more relative to your community, and you don't have to say like, oh, we can't afford to run a game now because the overall ecosystem is just prohibitively expensive and we have to find a new place to do it. So hopefully We found a chain like Hive where you have resource credit based transactions, and as long as you're doing the same kind of stuff, you shouldn't have to buy more tokens or anything on the base layer, and your experience on the second layer is not going to change relative to things that aren't in your control.
I mean, one of the things I want to say there, I'd love to see your bowling teams face up against Taskmaster's basket weaving teams. God help us if that clash happens. But no, I completely agree, and I mean, obviously, Speak Networks used this technology already on Honeycomb, and it was a really useful solution for us at the time. So just props to it. Looking forward to seeing it going forward. And talk about going forward. Where do you think we're going to go with this stuff? Where do you think either the Speak Network's going to go, or the Honeycomb aspect of it, and what Honeycomb can end up doing? And and then generally, like in terms of the way the industry's going and the way communities seem to be becoming more self-sovereign and things like this. What are your thoughts on
that? Putting more stuff onto the 3Speak network. The whole idea was to make it kind of like I can't remember the name of the. There's several blockchains that they run on Hyperledger.
Yeah. Are we
Filecoin?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the idea, was use Hive as the backbone for that.
Sure.
So it's been fun trying to piece together the things that'll make the Speak chain a little bit better than Honeycomb in general, but I'm not really sure how much of the contracts and stuff can get generalized. But yeah, Honeycomb is definitely an easy platform to build on, especially in relation to an easy level 1 to build on. So it's as soon as you wrap your noodle around it, it stays there.
And we've got a bit of content coming out about changes to the governance situation and how we might change that to a DPoS situation rather than a pure proof of stake situation. You had a really, really cool nuance there that I thought was really interesting in terms of how to proxy your vote. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So we have different things like voter apathy, and one of the real hard things to say is if I delegate my vote to somebody, I necessarily lose my vote when I have something that I really care about. So there could be 90 things that you're just I don't care about, and then there's that 10% of things where you're just I need to have my opinion expressed on this. So the idea is, most of the time, most people, I believe, would just, via apathy, proxy their votes to the elected top 20. So you have the DPoS system, just like on Hive, where you rank choice vote, and the top 20 of those people each have a 5% share of all of the apathetic votes out there. And then if you decide that you want to vote for stuff, your vote comes out of the apathy pool and gets put an equal weight with your stake. So it is proof of stake, but you're not voting against all of the apathetic people. You're voting against the people who are paid to be at the top. And hopefully that will get us out of a few situations that the U.S. government definitely can't do.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, we saw this during the Hive takeover, well, the Steam takeover, I should say, where we had to rally people from all over, like old sleeping accounts came back in and started voting for witnesses to bring I like to see it as like an immune system that just kind of activated as the chain came under attack. We brought the voting threshold higher to make it really difficult for the attackers to take over. Ultimately, they ended up taking over, and we fought away. But that's partly a symptom of voter apathy. People saying, "Oh, I'm not that bothered. Nothing will happen. It'll be fine." Right? This system effectively says if you're an apathetic voter that doesn't vote, all of the power that you would have voted with had you have voted goes to the top 20, and they're elected by the community anyway, right? And then if you vote, that power comes out of the top 20 and goes to your account. So what it means is you don't have dead accounts not voting, basically. That power stays utilised by the top 20, and then they are elected by the community. And the community members that are then voting, effectively proxying their votes to the top 20, are getting their views expressed in that mechanism as well. So it's going to make it harder to take over. It's going to have less dead vote on the chain. And I think it's also really cool because, even if I didn't proxy my vote to some people, or if I didn't vote for witnesses myself, I'm still comfortable with most of the top 20 and then the backup witnesses behind them. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't need to worry too much. I'll trust them to make the decisions for me. And then if there's a couple of things that I feel really, really strongly about, then I'll be able to vote on that specific issue and take that power away from the top 20 witnesses and put it into my account so that I can vote specifically on that issue. So yeah, I just think that's going to be a real. I mean, how cool is that? I just think that's super cool, and I think how on earth do you do that today with the paper ballot voting box? It's just not going to happen. So yeah, bring it on. Let's see how that experiment works, and looking forward to running that out on the Speak Network for sure. Is there anything else you want to say on where you see things going in this regard, in terms of things like the Speak Network and just this technology in general?
Yeah, I mean, there's things hard to explain. So say you just want to like grow anything at all, and you put your, say, a crop of corn right by the road. There's a certain amount of people who are just going to stop their car and grab a few ears of corn because it's there. And it's like, how much fencing do we have to put there to make sure that the people who planted the corn are the people who reap the corn? And that's kind of what the systems is forcing us to build. And it's like, I think there's a future for it. I think it's going to be a bumpy road, though, just trying to figure out where to put all the signs and where to put the limits and what to look for to make sure that the system isn't gamed as much as it could be.
Sure. And I guess it's going to be a bit of a learning curve as we go forward. We'll be able to experiment with different things and see what works and what doesn't. Yeah.
On the flip side of that, the way that we're doing it is so much cheaper, like in terms of resources, than a coin like Filecoin or the other algorithms out there that are trying to do the same thing. So it's not like there isn't a market for doing this. There is absolutely a market for doing this. And like, are we just going to grow a lot more corn because our resources are that much better utilized in doing it the way that we're doing it? So yeah, I absolutely think that we're acing stuff like second layer smart contracts. We're acing DeFi. We're acing like HBD as like a dollar peg. Like I would almost go out there and say like a bold prediction, but I can't just want to say that. We might be the first.
This, I promise. Yeah.
Okay, good. I think we're on a good footing to be like one of the first larger ecosystems to re-get their all-time high. So this initial bump back up to 60 cents, it might not stop until we hit 340 or more.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. Like, if you follow the trailing 10 moving average or the 20 and wait for it to close below and then maybe break below that before you think about selling, you'll be able to get through a long way this run if it's a long run. It might come below the 20 and consolidate for a period of time before it legs up again after a couple of months maybe. But there is definitely potential for that run. Don't listen to me though. I'm crap at prediction of the future. So the other thing that I think that you failed to mention there, that I think is super important, is something very novel that you've worked on as far as I can tell, and it's over-collateralized DEXs and over-collateralized staking systems where the infrastructure operators themselves have to stake, in this case, Larynx miner tokens, and then the cumulative value of that is what backs the security of the DEX, and then any other staking pools we end up using in the future. I just think that whole concept it's so basic in my opinion. It's 101. It should be in anywhere where there's currency kept in large amounts in multi-sig accounts. Yet no one does it, and it's just like, to me, well, if you can get the infrastructure operators actually staking into the ecosystem and saying, hey, I've got skin in this game, I can guarantee that I'm not going to either run off the fund with the funds or collude with anyone. I'm going to run top quality infrastructure and code such that it's strong and secure. That's where else is that happening in the DeFi world? Over collateralized DEXs, over collateralized staking systems. Where is that? Why isn't that happening?
Yeah, I don't understand it either, because like I don't feel like my grasp of the English language has ever been the same as, say, my grasp of what goes on in programming. So I was looking in the dictionary for like the words to match what I was trying to do in the programming, and I was like, oh, collateral, like escrow, all of these stuff, like for couriers to get bonded, and I'm like, oh wait, all of this stuff exists perfectly outside of the crypto ecosystem. Why
Yeah,
does
yeah.
anybody in the crypto
Standard
ecosystem?
operation finance. Yeah, over collateralization. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
so
reinvented it in your own head. Disregard.
yeah, I mean, it's exactly what happened. I was like, well, this is the only way I could balance this equation here. Oh wait, this term easily exists in English. Like you're saying, it's 101 stuff that just doesn't exist other places.
Yeah, certainly in crypto. And I don't know whether how the word's going to get out about this, but I'm certainly very, very confident using the decks that you guys have got, because it's just so decentralized. It's account to account. All of those contracts, any amount in those contracts is always over collateralized in the ecosystem from the infrastructure operators themselves. And there is, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's like a limit. So if the amount being put into orders, either on the buy or the sell side, exceeds the amount that's staked and collateralized into the DEX by the infrastructure operators, the order won't go in. Is that correct?
It's the other way around. You can't,
Typical.
like, I can't stop somebody from sending any contract a certain amount of capital. But what we can do is immediately refund any capital in excess of that limit. So it is a little bit interesting, because like there's no collateral limits for the sell side. So if you're selling your Larynx tokens, they're it's just maintained by the ecosystem. We don't have to hold that into a smaller subsidiary or multi-signature account there. So yeah, if you want to put money into the buy side, we will just funnel it straight through. But if you want to like hedge your bets and put on a lower thing, but a big one, we just wouldn't hold it and would refund that.
That's right. It kind of gets spat back out until there's enough collateral in the system. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. And I'm surprised that there isn't either that exact same method or some other similar version of that in other DeFi protocols as of yet. But there's going to be a certain point where customers will say, well, we won't use your DeFi ecosystem unless you've got some form of the infrastructure operators over collateralizing the amounts being traded on the ecosystem, right? But it'll come. It'll come for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right, Disregard. Well, it's good having you on, and I appreciate your input to all this stuff. Appreciate all the work that you're doing, of course. And yeah, we'll see how all this goes, and as we go forward, looking forward to seeing things like the Speed Network roll out. Looking forward to seeing dLux move forward again, and also Honeycomb. And you know, I'm pretty sure that in the near enough future, there's going to be alternative uses for Honeycomb than just Speak Network. You know, there'll be other communities that realise, oh, we can use this as well pretty easily. It's there to be used. So
I do know there's quite a few people who want to use the token right now. They're just being very patient.
yeah, I mean, oh, fucking yeah. Dev resources, it's the bane of the development world, unfortunately. You guys are hard to come by. But all good. All right. Thank you very much. Dan, you got anything to say about that before we move on to another thing?
Oh, I could talk about layer 2 on Hive all day, but yeah, I think we're doing DeFi right with over collateralization, and for some reason, most of the industry just seemed to skip that by. So now it's just about building better node systems and better front ends, and we're off to the races.